This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 205.
There's very little time commitment once you're in the trade to actually maintain it.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host. He finds sweeping crumbs up from the floor relaxing. I find dropping them relaxing. We're a good team. Clay Trader.
I feel like I'm not the only one out there that has this, because there's got to be other people that enjoy just sweeping the floors. Now, with a broom, I guess I like vacuuming too, but yeah, there's something about sweeping crumbs up from the floor, and it's just relaxing. Sometimes I'll put on like a podcast or a YouTube video and just listen, or sometimes I just think. I'm not proclaiming I've ever had any good ideas, but I think at least some of my ideas have been generated as I've just swept up the floor after dinner or just helped, in the kitchen or whatever. But washing dishes, just don't even. Unloading the dishwasher, no. Drying, no. Don't ask me to do. But sweeping the floor, yeah, I can do that. It's just relaxing. And maybe if you need to just, I'm not saying it'll work for you, but if you're looking to maybe just try something that can get your mind right, generate some ideas, just let you think, I'm convinced there's some sort of therapeutic power in just sweeping up the floor. I think the key with vacuuming, though, their difference is vacuuming, it's, so maybe it's not as easy to think about thoughts there, but sweeping, I'm telling you, you got to give it a try, which segues perfectly. And I have no idea. For you listeners out there, a little context if you're new, Ches has no idea what these fun facts are going to be. So he's always got to think on his toes. And I don't know anything. I don't. So this is where I get to know Ches too. This is episode, I don't even know what episode this is, 200 something. But, this is the 200th little fun fact I've learned about Ches. So we as time goes, we're like a fine wine, Ches and I. We just get more and
aging
more.
Nicely?
Yeah, we're aging nicely in terms of how much we learn about each other. But Ches, where do you like sweeping the floor? Or better asked, is there any sort of cleaning activity that offers you some sort of therapeutic value?
Well, I personally like to make sure all the dishes are done in the evening. I never like waking up to a messy kitchen. So I usually have some time to think while doing dishes, and I keep the water kind of running soft so it's not, crazy loud blasting. But I don't mind vacuuming. I don't mind sweeping. Vacuuming is definitely a little bit louder, but I usually will wear some headphones if I'm going to listen to a book or just kind of hang out. And then another thing out here that I found that I actually enjoy quite a lot is shoveling. Yes, it's not always enjoyable. And if you have a poor shovel and you do it bad, you're going to hurt your back. But I enjoy shoveling, as crazy as that sounds. I got a really good shovel that doesn't tweak your back. And I just kind of like maintaining stuff and getting it how I like it. So, yeah, I have nothing against any of that. The only thing I really don't enjoy is folding laundry. Folding laundry drives me nuts.
Preach it, brother. Yes.
And Kelly, bless my wife's heart, she has a certain way that she likes to fold it. It's not just, and I'm like, every towel I fold is a different folded way, and it drives her nuts. So she's like, I feel like you do this on purpose so you don't have to fold things. I'm like, I swear I can throw it in, set the temperature, put the detergent in, but I cannot. Folding for the life of me drives me nuts. But yeah, I have no problem doing the rest of that stuff. I like it.
Interesting. Now, I need a little more context clarification, and I'm not judging, but you said shoveling, and given you live out in the Wild West, are you talking shoveling manure, shoveling snow? What exactly do you find?
The old horse poop. No, it's mainly snow where I live here. We don't have any horses or anything like that.
Hey, and no judgments out there. If you're like, wait, you have something against people that get therapeutic out of shoveling manure? I know, I'm not saying that. I was just a little curious about where Ches stood in regards to that. But yeah, it's funny. And this is why Ches and I mean, we're traders, but we're not the same type of trader. Ches, it drives me nuts to have a clean kitchen the next morning, and I'm sitting here saying that does not bother me at all.
Pizza boxes and donut boxes.
I don't care. Like after I eat, I just want to lounge around. But I'd say probably Ches is more on the right. But it just we're all different creatures of trading. We're all different creatures of cleaning. But there's actually lots of parallels there for trading, and why somebody that's sitting there saying I have the strategy for you. No, they don't, because there's no one size fits all strategy. Just like there's no one size fits all preference in the world of cleaning. But no, that's not really off topic. I think that's a really good parallel. Now, we have a great episode here. We just got done recording it with John.
Spoiler, he's an engineer, so you can just tune out now. Another engineer.
But it's funny how that came up, and we promise nothing was staged with how that all came about. But in hindsight, that was very funny how it played out. But as far as somebody that is doing it right, John is the guy. But as somebody that, and again, John, thank you very much. I thanked him within the interview. He was very honest. He was very candid. And I'll offer up another little spoiler. And actually, now that I think about it, probably what I'm going to name this episode, you already know. But he spent a lot of time that totally just got wiped away. So just be very, very careful out there. Fool's gold is real, and fool's gold is very, very cruel. And that'll you'll see kind of how that all played out. But John, what I respect is he went through that all, and he fought back, and he got himself a new plan, and that new plan and how he's implementing it. It's not the prettiest thing, but he's doing very well with his real money. He's doing very well with his current strategy. And he's on the pathway that he wants to be on. And, there's a lot of great stuff to take away from this. So yeah, sit back and enjoy. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Clay.
Now, John, I like you already as a former process engineer who has been drilled into my head efficiency. We literally just hopped on this software like 20 seconds ago, and we're already into the episode. You had no question. I mean, it was just, we may have a record of time where, or at least I got on the software and then we've started. Are we in record territory here, Chuz?
I think we're in record territory, but I want to even give John more props because I signed in 2 hours early because I don't know how to read a calendar, and John was already in here. While he wasn't conversing with me, he was already in here to make sure the software worked. So yes, I think that might have set a record for sure.
Yeah, I was setting up a new mic, so I had to make sure everything was good to go.
I did not know that piece of context. So John, like I said, you are on the ball, and all right, we're off to a real good start. Full disclosure's sake, I know John, he's in the chat room. We've talked in the chat room, but now that I think about it, have you ever emailed me before? Should I know anything about you? Have we conversed? Okay, you've never emailed me or anything like that.
I have not, no.
Okay, all right. So, Chez, where do you stand in this? I'm assuming we're in the same boat here. You don't really have too much background info on John?
I do not have too much background info on John, but I thought you said that he's a process engineer, and I was just going to sign off the podcast because it would be another example of you just getting more engineers, Clay, and we can't be having that.
For all we know, maybe he is. John, are you an engineer, John?
I am an engineer.
I'm out of here. I'll see you guys later. Forget this.
It doesn't matter. No, John, are you trolling or are you really an engineer?
No, I really am. Software.
All right. This is
my goodness.
Everybody's going to think this was staged. Listeners, I promise. This is, if you're a longtime listener, you know that none of this is staged. Sometimes it gets a little unorganized around here during conversations. So, yeah, no. All right. Well, that's good stuff. It couldn't have played out any better. But, all right. Well, John, engineer John, this is good. We literally could not have gotten off to a better start. So I'm excited. And first off, before anything else, and before I forget, for context sake for you listeners, this is a Saturday morning, early afternoon, depending on, I guess, what time zone you're in. But these are the people that, are in the community. And this is why I'm so appreciative. I'm including Chaz, so I'm speaking for both of us here. But why we are so appreciative, because, John's taking time out of his weekend to share his story with you, with us. And that's awesome. That's great stuff. Other guests, take time out of their work day or an evening. So, it really just goes, thank you to all community members who have ever been on the podcast. We're really appreciative of it because it just, Saturday afternoon and John's just being John, I guess. But it all makes sense why you were so upfront. It's just, you got the engineer in mind. But John, where did all this start for you? Where did you first hear about the markets? What got you kind of interested enough to maybe want to start to get a little bit more hands-on? But I guess let's just start back at the very start.
So, growing up, I had no knowledge of the markets at all. No experience, no interaction, like nobody talking about the market. So it wasn't until later in life that I actually got some interest in it and started to investigate and explore that a little bit. So, Yeah, I guess the first encounter I had was as a graduation gift from high school. I think it was. My grandma gave me some National City stock as a graduation gift, and so I didn't know what to do with that. It was like, you know, so I just kind of held on to it, and then later on I learned about dividends, and I learned that you could get a check every few months for $10 or whatever. So I thought that was the greatest thing ever. Here's free money every few months. um, so that's all that I had going for me for maybe 10 years or so. The company that I work for, they're publicly traded. So at one point I ended up getting some stock from them.
Are you allowed to say what company you work for?
I'm not going to, but I could.
Okay, fair enough.
So anyway, that was probably 2010-ish. So I had some stock from them. Didn't really do anything with that either, other than have dividend checks sent my way, because I didn't know anything different. I didn't know that, like, well, it might be better to just reinvest those dividends instead of taking $20 to blow on a Saturday evening dinner, So
now did you do anything? I'm assuming you're just contributing towards, say, a 401k. You're
So,
not doing
yes.
anything with like IRAs or anything like that. You're just
correct.
putting aside your money from that and then let it grow and to see where it goes. And then, but yeah, of course you get those dividend checks as well, which is nice.
Correct. Yeah. So I was investing in a 401k from the time I started my job out of college. So yeah, I was putting a lot of money into that, but was, very passively managing that, just kind of throwing it into a few different funds and, checking it once every 2 years, So yeah, I didn't really do anything with the stock market until, well, the thing was, I thought that you could only buy or sell in 100 share lots. So it wasn't until maybe 2011, 2012 when I discovered that you could just buy one share of something if you wanted to. So once that piece of knowledge dropped on me, then I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just go buy, go put $1,000 in this stock over here and $1,000 in this stock over there. That was much more appealing to me than dropping $20,000 for 100 shares of one stock that I liked.
Sure,
right?
sure. Especially if the stocks you like are higher priced, of course. So
Exactly.
was your logic at this time just to kind of spread it wide in terms of, say, an industry or just the market in general, or are these companies where you did, say, fundamental analysis or anything like that, or is this just companies you think just had future potential growth?
Oh, no, it was that's all way too complicated. No, it was basically like, here's a company that had a product that I encountered and liked. So surely their stock will go up in the future. And so I would throw some money at it. Right. So I had bought a Ford car right around then and really liked my Ford car. So I went and bought a bunch of Ford stock. Right. And a buddy of mine bought a Tempur-Pedic bed and was raving about how nice his Tempur-Pedic bed was. So I went and bought some Tempur-Pedic stock. And so it kind of went like that for a while. And
Now,
of course, this was like 2011, 2012. So everything was going up anyway. So, I was a really good investor.
I mean,
along with everybody else at that time too.
Right.
But I mean, well, I guess this will kind of differentiate. Or did the dividend have anything to do with any of that? Or is it just simply, I like my Ford car, therefore I'm buying? Or is it, I like my Ford car and, they also pay a dividend, therefore?
Yeah, a dividend was a nice plus for sure.
So you factor that into your decision then?
I don't think I did. I think I just felt better about it if I bought it and it did have a dividend.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, because at least I'll cut you some slack there. But yeah, right now, but I mean, at really the core, at least you were investing. I love what you said earlier. I can either invest that $20 and get that dividend, even if it wasn't necessarily the main, driver, no pun intended for the Ford, but at least you had that mindset. Whereas a lot of people are like, nah, I'm going to go blow it on a dinner or whatever. So, I mean, at the end of the day, sure, it was a little, I don't know, bare bones as far as his investment thesis was concerned. But, Ches, would you agree? At least his mind and heart was in the right spot?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very simple criteria, and that's what he's kind of going for. Nothing wrong with that.
Yep. And if even if you made a couple of stupid trades, or even if you bought Snapchat at the IPO price, whatever that was, at least you're still the idea is I'm trying to grow this money rather than just go spend it on, in your example, the dinner. Now, and I'm kind of hopping back, but you said it kind of passively, but you had no experience. You didn't really know anything about the markets. And then, your grandma gave you that stock, and then you kind of just went on. And then all of a sudden you learned about dividends. So how in the world did you ever learn about dividends? I mean, was this an accident, or did you actively seek that out? Because you said it very passively. I was like, and wait a second, you've literally had no experience, and all of a sudden you just learned about dividends. So, I mean, where did that come about?
I think it was just an option on one of the papers that got mailed to me.
Okay.
It's like, hey, do you want to reinvest your dividends, or do you want, a check sent? And I was like, well, why would I want to reinvest it when I could get money, right? So yeah, it was not very well thought out.
Well, and the only reason you got that piece of paper was because your grandma got you that piece of stock, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. So, I mean, you have kids, I remember you're saying, right?
Yes, I have 2 kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not trying to turn this into a parenting podcast, but it's always amazing how, and not that your grandma is necessarily a parent, but you know what I mean, is how when people around you do little things, like think about that. Your grandma gave you just a stock, and okay, that's great. But think about it. Then that stock all of a sudden I love it. On the paper form, it was asking you a question that, okay, well, dividends. What the heck's a dividend? So now that, that was like the second domino that fell into, now you went out there and learned more about dividends. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, look, I like this free money. So that got your mind process into the next domino of, I can either spend the $20 on the dinner, or I can try to, put that into something that's going to pay me dividends. And it's kind of crazy how, and it goes back to who is surrounding you. And we talk about this all the time, but I mean, who surrounds you can have just little things can all of a sudden transform into so much bigger things. And I don't know, maybe I'm blowing this out of proportion, but I find it funny how you literally had no idea about anything. And then you learned about dividends, but the only reason you learned about that dividend was because in other words, long story short, I like your grandma. So is your grandma still with us, or?
She is, yeah.
Well, yeah. Grandma, John's grandma.
I should probably send her a thank you note or something right now.
Yeah, or maybe just send her, thank you, John's grandma. You are, you're like Kainoa. Kainoa, you remind me. I don't know if you remember or listen to his podcast, but his grandpa actually took him into some sort of meeting with them, and that got
to the brokerage firm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that got his interest sparked. So I guess if you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, if you have younger people around you, you could be in your 20s. But if you have some high schooler that you have, whether it's at church or at a club, I don't know where you would be, but just remember, you never know. A little suggestion. Hey, you're young. Hey, whatever. Maybe check out this stock market thing. You never know where it could actually turn into for that person's in that person's journey. So, anyways, that's good stuff. But so you learned about dividends because a piece of paper asked you, and then we'll pick back up with the journey. So, you just thought you had to buy 100 share lots, and that was kind of interesting. But I'll let you kind of pick it back up. I realize I totally derailed the conversation, but do you think you can pick back up the pieces and carry us forward, John?
Yeah. So
Good.
At that point, that was maybe 2011, 2012, and I was just buying some, big tickers, well-known stocks, just trying to make some money, right? So, I was doing fine on those and making some money. And I'm trying to remember exactly how this occurred. I think, so I was with Scott Trade at the time. And the reason I signed up with Scott Trade is because I live in St. Louis, and they had the naming rights on the hockey arena here. So that's how I knew Scott Trade. So that's how I picked my broker, was based on that. Because surely they're a good broker if they can afford to
they got an arena.
Have the sponsorship of an arena. Yeah. So they got me that way. Good advertising on their part. So anyway, I think they must have had like a biggest gainers or like highest percentage gains type chart somewhere. And so that opened Pandora's box for me. And this is where the story will take us like into the valley of the shadow of death, because because that is how I learned about penny stocks. Because here I am making like 1 or 2% on Microsoft and Ford, and I see these other stocks that are moving 200, 300, 1,000% in a day, right? So that piqued my interest a little bit.
And it's time to get rich and retire early. I like it.
Right. So, so my quote unquote investing methodology started to change a little bit at this point. So I think I did a Google search for best penny stocks to invest in, right? You can imagine how that went.
Yeah, I'm sure you got the best articles in the world with that search.
Yeah, I think that's probably how I ended up at an Investors Hub, and so this was I think I was down this rabbit hole for maybe 3 or 4 years.
You were in the penny stock rabbit hole for 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Oh, bless your heart,
this might
John.
have been the time when penny stocks were still kind of ripping and roaring, though, Clay. That's the thing. I'm trying. Can you put a year on when you were?
That's
kind
actually
of
a valid point. Good point.
So I'm looking back at it. I think I started maybe back in 2012 or 2013. Probably 2013.
Okay, Chez's point stands then, because when I started claytrader.com, that was in end of 2013, and that's when the first like marijuana stock. Were marijuana stocks a big thing when you were in there? Do you remember?
They were a part of my portfolio.
Okay,
yes.
So to Chez's point, it actually. So I'll step back a little bit. It makes sense why you were maybe more in the penny stock world, because that's when they actually moved a lot more than what they do these days. So. But I'm sure you have some good stories, so let's hear them.
Well, so I wasn't really trying to like trade necessarily. I was going for, long-term investment, right? I was looking for the next company that would make it big and, it'd be a $50 stock down the road, right? I wasn't, but I didn't really have any basis for making a judgment on a stock. In hindsight, but yeah, I would buy these and I would hold them for a year or more, mostly because I didn't want to pay short-term capital gains. That was a big deal to me. Was I wanted to pay long-term gains instead of short-term. So yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense in hindsight. But
well, I was going to say in hindsight, of course it doesn't. But it's funny how those kinds of things can make us do, in my opinion, just irrational things in the moment. But yeah, at the time, I'm sure it seemed absolutely logical to you.
Yeah. So I started buying some, and I actually made some good money for a while. I'm looking back at some of the ones that I bought. I had Metaswipe. Transbyte, I think that was a pot stock. Freeze Tag was one that I was big in. I ended up in one called Nanotech. You guys remember that one? They were doing.
I'm trying to think of the ticker symbols.
Yeah. Nanotech was NTEK. I remember that one.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Oh yeah. What was the freeze one? I feel like that sounds
Freeze
familiar.
Tag was FRZT.
That was another monster.
I remember these.
Yeah. So all right, this is fun. What about those other ones? Give us some ticker symbols.
Metaswipe was MWIP.
That one I do not know.
I maybe on that one.
I think that was the one I made the most on. Transbyte was ERBB.
Oh, of course, the old classic.
Yeah, that is an absolute classic. Yeah.
And then I have some MINE still in my account today.
Yeah,
you're one of them.
Yes,
yeah, that's an ultimate classic around here. By the way,
you guys have heard of that?
Mind shares are in the mail. They should.
I've been waiting for a couple years now, but I'll keep checking the post office.
I just checked the tracking number. Should be to you tomorrow.
Okay, so I have a question though for you, John. Obviously, thank you for taking me down memory lane with these tickers, because I remember trading those with a SureTrader account. That's how long ago it was.
Nice.
But I want to know. You said you were making profits on these. What was your determining factor for taking the profit? Was there any use of charts or anything, or just I'm happy with this amount of money and I'm booking it?
Yeah, it was basically like I'm happy with this amount of money. I didn't have any knowledge of charts yet at this point. Um, at least until the end of my penny stock phase. So yeah, it was usually there was some kind of a run up, and then I would see it kind of falling back down to earth and thinking, well, maybe this is as good as it's going to get. And so I would just kind of cut and run at that point. There was really nothing beyond that.
So, all right, I have a question because that's interesting because a lot of people in that position would be buy the dip. Oh, this is just a temporary dip.
I think I tried that strategy once or twice as well.
Okay. And did you have situations where it just kept dipping?
Yeah, I think mine might have been that case, actually.
Yeah. So I guess, Chad's great question. How did you determine when to sell? How did you determine what to buy? Now, I know you had a general reason, but were the message boards influence you at all, social media? Or would you say, okay, so it's not like you were totally acting independent here?
No, it was 100% the iHub message board. So what I was looking for was the most active boards, right? So if there's a lot of people posting on a board, a lot of eyes on it, I figured that must mean that, there's going to be a lot of people trading it. There's a good chance of it going up. So that's what I was looking for. And so I was patient with it too, right? So I'd buy in, and then just wait for a move to happen. And that move could happen in 2 weeks. It could happen in a year. And as long as it seemed like there was still activity around the stock, then I was comfortable with it.
And I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, that what made it easier to hold for those longer periods of time was you were not necessarily actively posting, but actively reading the message board. So you always had that kind of constant bombardment that you're giving yourself from other people that everything will be okay. This thing's going to the moon. Did that play any role in kind of just making those longer periods easier to hold? Or was it just simply because of, as an engineer and you just being focused on numbers, well, if I don't have to pay short-term taxes, so I guess what was the main driving force behind you being able to hold on to something such as a penny stock for, 6 months, let alone a year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like it was usually because you were kind of waiting on some kind of news, right? So I think I was just kind of, I bought in and then just kind of waiting for that news to happen and then seeing what would happen to the stock when that news rolled out. So, I don't know when that news is going to come or when whatever that factor is that would move the stock, but that's kind of what I was waiting for. So you're waiting for those press releases,
So it's basically like the world was always dangling the carrot. I mean, that's pretty much how the penny stock world operates. And if you're a good pumper, then you know that, well, you always got to keep dangling a new carrot out in front of people's nose, because that'll keep them either buying more or at least holding and not selling. So that makes sense.
Right. Yep.
Now, so obviously at some point your penny stock phase ends. Is there a particular reason why? Were the opportunities getting slimmer? Were you starting to just not profit as often as before? What was the ultimate straw that broke the camel's back for that?
Well, I think it was probably because I lost a couple times. But yeah, I think it kind of dawned on me that I was just kind of gambling, right? So, and I think I got married. So yeah, that was during the period that I got married too, right? So I was kind of learning to be a little more responsible with my money. I didn't have as much free cash flow as I had before. And so I knew that I would feel more pain if I lost this investment money than I would have during my single days. So there was a little more, responsibility there.
And then the gears have shifted. That's for sure. As things like that happen.
Right. And then, on top of a couple of losses and just realizing like I have no idea what I'm doing and I'm just gambling here. So, yeah.
So did that lead you to take kind of a big break from trading in general, or are you going to start focusing on companies like Ford and other?
Well, I wouldn't even say that I was trading at that point. I mean, I just saw myself as investing, right? So, and I took a break, and I think when I walked away though, so yeah, this is funny. When I walked away, I still bought a bunch of shares of Freeze Tag just because it was super, super low at that point. That was the FRZT ticker, right? And so this is actually how I got to Clay Trader. Is that so I walked away and I wasn't checking into stocks really at all for almost a year. And for whatever reason, I logged into my Scott Trade account just to see how things were going in there. Because I did still have a couple of, regular like NASDAQ tickers in there along with this freeze tag stock, right? So I checked this. I think it must have been July of 2017. And I saw that my my stock value there had raised by like $10,000.
So I was actually just pulling up the chart to send to Clay and saying, look at this in 2017. I wonder if he checked it at the time. So that's amazing.
So I managed to check it like 1 or 2 days after that big spike had happened. And so it had dropped back maybe 50%. I should have brought that chart up to actually look at it again.
I'm looking at it right now. Ches he sent it to me through Slack, and for listeners' context sake, John is not exaggerating. That thing spiked for sure.
Yeah, so I had put in just a little bit, like maybe $300 in that thing, and my value on that had raised up to almost $20,000. But I wasn't, and I had alerts on there, but I guess my alerts must have aged out after 30 days or something. I don't know. So I didn't even get alerted on this, and it was only by chance that I happened to log into my account and saw that spike.
Walk me through numbers. So, what price did you buy, or did you get, $300 at what price?
I think it was either a 0001 or 0002.
And it went up to $1.50 at the peak, just for listeners' context. I'm not saying that you sold the top, but geez, that's a nice, nice increase.
That makes sense, because I'm thinking, wait a second, $300 to $20,000. Where exactly do you buy in on this thing? But that does make sense then.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it here. So anyway, I was looking at it and I didn't know what to do. Do I sell this? Do I buy more? I had no idea. And so I think so what do I do when I have questions? I go to iHub, right? And so on the iHub board, I think that is where I saw Clay post a video about the ticker, and he had some technical analysis with a chart. And that really intrigued me. I think I watched the video, and then I saw the ticker kind of react in a way that his technical analysis had shown it might, and I was sold from that point. Like, hey, maybe this is something I should look into instead of just gamble investing. So I ended up holding that. I didn't buy any more, and I didn't immediately sell it. So I ended up holding it a little longer. I think I ended up selling for maybe $4 or $5 grand after it was all told. So still some nice gains, not anywhere near what I could have had. And so at that point it was like, all right, well, I need to look more into this Clay Trader guy. He seems to know what he's doing. He's got some good ideas here with all this chart stuff. Maybe I could go learn from him. So then I signed up with Inner Circle shortly after that, mostly because I wasn't ready to drop a bunch of money into CTU without first kind of seeing the lay of the land and determining whether or not that was going to be worth it to me. But I think after just maybe 1 day or 2 days in the Inner Circle, I was like, it was a great community. There's a lot of people here that seem to know what they're talking about. This is definitely going to be worth it to get an education here in a community that's this active and knowledgeable and willing to help others.
So it was a little bit different than the iHub boards?
Yeah. I wouldn't say
just a little bit.
I wouldn't say a little. I think that's understating it.
Okay. I mean, I just, because not to bash iHub. iHub is a fine site if you know how to use it. But yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes people from iHub come and they think it's iHub in the sense of they start saying how great something is, and then we all turn into jerks. It's like, well, that wasn't very nice. Well, see, we're actually an educated community where if you try to pee on our leg and tell us it's raining, we're not huge fans of that. So, I mean, so it's kind of get into shape quickly, or some people just get turned off and they're just never around. So as a listener, if you plan on showing up and your strategy is I'm going to pump and dump on these sheep, we are vicious sheep that will eat you alive if you try to show up and pump. And very clearly that did not offend John. John actually appreciated it, which is why that's the type of people we want is John, where they're going to find value in people actually speaking the reality of the matter. And the reality of the matter is penny stocks are trash, but you can still make money on trash. You just got to, know how to use the tools out there. But there's many other ways also. But we're not anti-penny stock. We are anti trying to people tell us how great these pieces of trash are because they think we're stupid or they think that, we haven't done our homework. But it's definitely a much different community in that sense. Now, I just real quick, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but you said you had, you made some losses with your penny stocks, and that's kind of what put you on that pause. Were those losses
from it?
Yeah, were those losses catastrophic in the sense of they had wiped away all your gains, or I mean, where did that stand in regards to kind of your overall account?
I think they were enough that they might have. Yeah, I think they might have kind of wiped me out to basically break even or about that. I haven't looked back through, but nothing. It wasn't anything catastrophic where like it was hurting my livelihood. Right. It was this was all.
Let me put it this way. I would say in the sense I fully agree. Catastrophic. Yeah. I should have probably defined that the terms of that. But I would say that you just totally went through fool's gold. It was catastrophic in the sense of you pretty much lost all your gains. I mean, was it close to break even, if not break even? Okay.
Yes. And this was after, this was 3 or 4 years worth of quote unquote investing. Right. So I had gone from steady 2 or 3% gains with these other stocks to, 0 now, where I was chasing 3,000%, right? So,
and that's the thing is, and Ches and I, we see it all the time. We just saw it with, Bitcoin has kind of been the previous cycle. Now it's these marijuana stocks that have popped up again, and I get it. Things go up, and people they got it all figured out. They're, the arrogance out there starts to flow, and the Bitcoin people. Has anybody seen a cocky Bitcoin person in a while? I haven't, and I mean, and I don't say that in a mean way. It's a cycle, and it's a fool's gold cycle here, John. And I'm not saying, John, you were cocky or arrogant or anything like that walking around in your interactions.
I was a fool,
though. But everybody's a fool. It's really, are you a cocky fool or are you just kind of a quiet fool? But common denominator, everybody is a fool. But that's just how the market can work. Is so, and I'm not saying to listeners out there that if you're having gains, those aren't actual gains that you're making in a smart and long-lasting way. But you also got to consider, and you got to be honest with yourself, look in the mirror and say, or are these fool's gold type gains where I'm actually kind of just but I don't even know how to explain it, because at the time you're making money. So why would you think that you're doing anything wrong? Because you're making money. But that's why fool's gold is so vicious. That's why the market chews up so many people, because it strings you along. It makes you think you know what you're doing. And correct me if I'm wrong, John, you said it was only like a couple of losses, right? Like 1 or 2. Do you have an actual number?
I don't have an actual number, but yeah, it was less than 5. I know that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
and so less than 5 losses. And thank you, John, first off, for being so honest and candid about this, because it really does prove a great point. But 5 or less losses wiped away, took down to break even 3 or 4 years worth of John's time. 5 or less losses. That's how fool's gold works. You can go on a streak and win and win and win for years. And then all of a sudden, just a few, and all of us, boom, reality shows back up. So, John, I respect you even more now for just being honest, because there's at least one person out there. There's at least one person out there that's going to benefit from you being honest and sharing that. So that's I really do appreciate it. But okay, we'll swing back into you got your losses. You saw the video. You joined the inner circle, and after a day, which is cool, you're like, you know what? I'm going to sign up for Clay Trading University. That's where we were, right?
Yeah. So
okay, so pick it back up from there.
Yeah. So I signed up, and immediately just became addicted to learning at that point. So I was just watching as many videos as I could in a day. So I bought it right before we traveled up to Michigan for the 4th of July. So every night I was watching a video, and I think I ended up making it all the way through. What's the first
Robotic trading?
robotic trading? Yeah, I made it all the way through robotic trading in that first week there. So yeah, it definitely opened my eyes to a whole new way to look at things, and a new way to make money. That's for sure.
Were you practicing at the same time as you were going through the courses? I always just like to ask this because I find it fascinating how people kind of absorb the material. Were you practicing as you went through the material, or were you just kind of going through it, check onto the next course, check, and so on?
Practicing meaning like trading, you mean?
Paper trading, or just applying it to actual charts that are current and up to date?
No, I wasn't doing that. And so, I've actually taken a long time to get through all of CTU. So I coach high school football in the falls. So,
like
so
a
I
head
signed
coach?
up. I'm an assistant coach, but it's a time suck.
Where do you live?
I'm in St. Louis.
Okay, St. Louis. All right.
Yeah. Grew up in Michigan, though.
Where in Michigan?
I grew up in the UP, small town called Pickford.
So basically, you're Canadian, is what you're telling us, then, huh?
Yeah, basically.
Yo, Yoopers.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny. My accent reverts a little bit whenever I go back up there and talk with my friends.
Nice. No, that's cool. What position coach are you?
Running backs, and then I offensive coordinator for the freshman team as well.
Nice. And what in Missouri is it like letters or is it numbers? How are the divisions broken down?
We do numbers, yeah. Then
what division is your high school?
We're in the largest one, Class 6. So there's 32 teams in Class 6.
In the whole state?
Yep.
Oh wow! So that's a massive high school then.
It is. Yep, really big high school.
Okay, John, you shouldn't have said that. Now I could do. I want to interview you about your job as a coach, but okay, back on track.
It's fun.
You coach.
It's fun.
Oh
yeah. So basically,
go ahead.
I've gone full bore into CTU, and then about 2 weeks into getting educated, I kind of have to put everything on hold for 3.5 months because I just don't have any free time to give during football season. So picked it back up again in December, and just kind of been just doing courses here and there whenever I can to get through it. I think there's still one or two that I still haven't done, but it's been such a long journey for me just to get through. There's so much material. It's crazy, Clay. I can't believe how much material you have in CTU. It's nuts.
Don't forget the 200 plus hours of just webinars alone too. Never forget.
Yeah, and so I can't get through it all. There's too much stuff for me to get through. It's a good problem to have, but
good problem to have.
Yeah, and it works against you because for listeners' context, I realize John realizes this, but and to Chez's point, let's see, I think we're up to episode 207 of the live webinars that happen.
And you go over an hour sometimes too. Let's not forget that either.
That's true. Sometimes I do go over an hour. So we'll just call it an hour average show. So right there in webinars alone, it's right now 200, give or take 207 hours. So to John's point though, is because those happen every week and because they are recorded and then put in the archive, it's almost impossible to ever catch up because there's always new content. With all that being said, though, I'm not trying to scare people away. It's not like you have to go through every webinar as as a prerequisite to actually go out and trade. It's not like you have to do every single little course in order to go and trade. But the idea here is I'd rather have somebody point the finger and say, Clay, you give too many examples, as opposed to Clay, I didn't get enough examples. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll err on the side of too much just so people have plenty of reference points. But, and I'm not trying to turn this into a sales pitch, but John, for the price of it, is that a fair price when you do consider all the content you get and then the fact that the content does grow weekly?
I think it's underpriced.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. As the consumer, yes, it's a great deal. And
for disclosure's sake, you are not You're not an affiliate. You're not being paid to say any of that, right? Just because
I am not.
trolls abound. Okay.
But if you did pay me to say it, I would gladly do that for you.
Okay. Hey, yeah. You always throw it out. I'm not going to pay you, but hey, you never know unless you ask or make the proposition. So I can respect that. All right. So we're up to date then, essentially, because it's now, as of this recording, February of 2019, and you're just talking about December. So that was December of 2018, I'm assuming you're talking about. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I have one quick question before I forget, because one thing, potential red flag, and maybe you don't even know yet, but you said you got through robotic trading in 1 week. So yes, you got through it in 1 week, but did you comprehend it in 1 week, or have you found out that you've had to go back because maybe you went through it too fast? I'm not saying you did, but oftentimes I'm kind of stepping into Chez's territory here because he can beast mode through stuff, but beast moding through stuff doesn't necessarily mean that you always capture every little piece that probably should be captured. So did you actually retain it all in a week? Because that's a pretty big course. So a week is just like, wow, you really went through that quick.
Yeah. So I've gone through it 3 times now, I think. The first time was really just to get familiar with the terms and concepts, and then you go back through it again to try to master it, and figure out how to actually use these things in a trade plan. So that first time was just because it was like shiny new objects that I thought were really cool, and so I wanted to listen to as much of it as I could, as quickly as I could.
And there's nothing wrong with that. We've had people who are actual truck drivers who just listen to the courses and then go back and rewatch everything just because it's just the way they kind of learn. So, yeah, I see nothing wrong with that at all. But obviously, you said, go ahead. Do
you mind? I was going to say, because to Chez's point, I agree. There is nothing wrong with that at all. But I think, and Chez, correct me if I'm wrong, Chez is also hedging in the sense of there could be something wrong with that, because what we've seen is people get it, and then all of a sudden they're like halfway through and they're putting trades on, and it's just like, wait a second, whoa, you're not even done with the whole thing, and B, you're already putting on trades. You might want to slow down. We all admire your ambition, but so I'm glad, John, that it sounds like you kind of knew up front that, hey, this first time I just want to see, I just want to listen. So it's not like you were one of these people that was listening and then throwing your hard-earned money on the line as you were still going through the course. So that's definitely there. It's apples and oranges. Some cases it can be pretty rough, but I don't want a listener out there or a member right now to think that, okay, well, that John guy, no, he's gone through it multiple times and he's not just trading as he goes. But so yeah, you're going about it the right way, almost like an engineer would go about it. John, we got to start to bring up engineering as much as possible, just to because I want to press Chez's buttons and I want to see that vein pop out in his neck. So, I mean, if there's any way you can bring up how great us engineers are, just feel free to do that. But now my next question, robotic trading skill sharpening. I'm assuming you've done that one, right?
I have, yeah.
Here's the question.
Did you print out the guides?
I did, yes.
And then did you do the lines? Did you annotate them? Did you fully participate?
Yeah.
Why are you laughing? Are you pulling the wool over my eyes right now? Are you peeing on my leg and telling me it's raining? Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. It's okay if you didn't. I'll just end the podcast right now. And
are you surprised that someone did what you asked them to do?
No, that's actually a good question. Am I surprised?
That's a great question, because not everybody listens. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Chez, are you surprised? I need to think about it. I'm going to defer to Chez. Are you surprised that he did?
No, knowing that he's a process engineer of some sort, then no, absolutely not. You guys generally have steps 1 through 7,000 and follow them each step at a time. But
you got to remember each step has subpoints too, Chez. So you have step 1A, and then
so it's 7,000 steps to the 12th power of some kind. Yeah, of course.
All right, that's actually I'm going to have to piggyback off of Chez's answer. Then that's true. Knowing a little bit more of your context, I guess I'm not surprised, but in general, it can actually be a little surprising that this is nothing new, but ambition, that's why the market and trading is so difficult, because it takes ambitious people and then uses their ambition against them, because ambitious people are ambitious. So of course they're going to want to let's just go, let's do it. And so it's just it's a funny cycle that the market can throw out there. So I'm assuming now. I'm trying to think in the chat room. You've been talking quite a bit about options, haven't you?
Yeah. So yeah, I do quite a bit of options trading. Yep.
What drew you into that?
Well, it started with recommendations by people in the chat room because I didn't know anything about options even when I had signed up for CTU. So that was one of my goals upon signing up, was to eventually educate myself on options so that I might be able to trade those someday. So I think I probably finished the options course maybe February or March of last year. And so, oh, you won't like this, Clay. Then I immediately started trading them.
Did you?
On Robinhood.
Oh,
Oh boy.
Well,
Oh boy.
no, let me be advance, or are you like directionally trading
No,
them?
directionally.
All right, yep, I'm not happy. You're right. Yep.
Short-term options, and lost my shirt on every one of them. And yeah, I realized that there was more to learn there before I could actually find a strategy that would work for me. So yeah, eventually got to the advanced options and realized that that was my groove. So maybe spring to summer, somewhere in there of last year is when I started going full bore with the advanced options trading. And so I've had the what we call the options farm set up since then, and it's been doing well for me.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if you had looked into the advanced option stuff, so I'm glad to hear. But yeah, is the reason why you wanted to look into options was pretty much the lower outlay of capital, or was there another particular reason that you thought you were going to sell, calls against your shareholdings or something like that?
It was more the appeal for someone who can't day trade or doesn't have time during the day to trade on a regular basis. So for me, that was the big appeal, was that I could just, and I think it was actually one of the podcasts with you, Ches, that really revealed that to me, the possibilities there, where there's very little time commitment once you're in the trade to actually maintain it. So it's been awesome for me. I mean, I probably spend, I have 5, 6 positions on at most at a time, and I probably spend no more than 15 minutes each night just taking a look at it to make sure I'm still happy with where they're at, whether or not I need to manage them in some way.
Yeah, it is a huge perk, especially for any of the listeners out there that, just like John here, your time is limited. And what I always say is, if you can spare 10 minutes of your lunch, I mean, you could have a sandwich in your mouth while you're checking these positions and stuff like that with the mobile platforms nowadays. I'm not saying you need to be trading off your phone, but you can put the position on a computer and then just literally check on it from your phone at lunch. And that's what I always used to say. I'd check the last hour of the day and during lunch hour, and that's about the only management you need to do. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that's working out really well for you. How long have you been trading advanced options specifically?
I think since summer, at least, of last year. Yeah, and I've kind of
Now are you using real cash for these trades, or is
Yes,
this
yeah.
in a paper thing?
This
Okay.
is all real cash. Yeah.
Do you mind if you share how large your account is that you're using for those?
So it's still reasonably small, just because I'm not, you know, still in the building up confidence phase before I go full bore and like really invest in it. So I think I started with either 1,500 or 2,000 in my account.
Great. Well, it's great to hear that you're able to still put on 5 to 6 positions with that size account.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great because you can always ratchet that up. That's the beauty of this, is you can scale up just like a lot of stuff in trading.
Right. So with the smaller account, there are some limits to, because of the buying power reduction of positions that I can or can't take on. There might be a position that I would like to take, but because of the buying power reduction and in my smaller account, I might have to do an iron condor instead of a strangle. But yeah, I can still kind of get the same effect, and yeah, it's great as far as yeah, still a lot of possibilities for me to trade.
Now,
And I started out.
Go
I was going to say
ahead,
I started
John.
out
Go
doing
ahead.
a lot of verticals before kind of looking for more neutral trades. And I've done a lot better since just trying to stay neutral instead of doing verticals all the time. I think that's one thing that's that I've kind of worked through over the past year.
Now, I want to just make real quick. Don't be scared away. Buying power reduction, iron condor. Wait, what? This is the point here that I want to make is that, yeah, all this made you think, wow, that sounds great. That not much time is needed, full-time job, and you can do it with Ches. That was brilliant, by the way. I can check with a sandwich in my mouth while for all this stuff. I mean, really, yeah. Here's the catcher, though, right? Because there's always, what's the catch? This is the catch. It is front-loaded in time, in knowledge, in understanding. Yeah, you got to figure out buying power reduction, an iron condor, the pink elephant. That's the pink elephant. Does
Crazy
not exist.
chicken.
Yeah, you have to. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of understanding that goes into it. So the catch is time comes at the front end. It is very front loaded. But yeah, after you do invest that time, and that's why education is important. Just the amount of time that investing into a structured program can save you is great. Whether that's the program we offer or somebody else, just always remember the time value of money. How much time what's your time worth? Because if you're wasting a lot of it, then you've technically probably spent even that much more money. But that's the one catch here. So just to keep it all real and to keep things honest, we are not saying buy my advanced options course and all of a sudden, the blink of an eye, you're going to be able to just do this all stuff over. No, there is lots of effort that goes into it. But after you get over that hurdle, after you invest the upfront time, then it's really, Ches and John, they're not exaggerating. It's stuff that's it's a swing trading method and perfect for people that do work and have jobs. And in fact, a quick plug here on the vlog. One of the, I don't know, a couple times ago when I was out to Denver, where Ches lives in Colorado, but we did a vlog where Ches kind of walked us through what his day looks like from an options trading, swing trading perspective, where we started off, and you just watch the video, and we'll link it in the show notes. But it really does a good job of showing. I mean, at one point we're literally out, and it just was a meet and greet where we were hanging out with other members, but we're at Top Golf, we're having a good time. And, Ches just would pull out his phone, check on some things, and get right back into golfing and having fun. So, yeah, it's very possible to get to that point. Just understand it up front. There's a lot of time that needs to go into it all. Is that a fair assessment, Ches, John? I mean, front-loaded in time.
I would fully agree. You just got to learn the strategies and understand what you're looking for. I mean, it's like any strategy, but yes, it's just the time investment is up front. And then after that, you kind of, in my opinion, you don't set it and forget it specifically. You set it and check it very, very small. It requires, just like John was saying, a very small time commitment, which is why it appealed to me.
Yeah, that's a good word. The time commitment is small after you put in the big time commitment. Is that a fair assessment, Ches?
Absolutely.
Okay. John, it sounded like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think there's been a big learning experience for me in how to manage the trades as well, and making sure that I know how to manage it before I enter the trade too, so that I'm not freaking out about my position if price starts to move against me in some way. I know ahead of time what I want to do, so it's all just mechanical at that point, and I know, if it moves this way, I'm gonna move, or I'm gonna roll this position down to here, and I'll be fine. It's so there's very little what's the word I'm looking for? There's very little decision making or emotion in the decision making after the trade is on. It all stays very
I'm assuming
that's
great. And I'm assuming that a big role of this is because your risk is under control in the sense of just how much money's at risk. You say, well, I only have kind of a smaller account, but I'm assuming that also keeps peace of mind, because it's not like you're seeing big numbers swinging around in your account that's freaking you out. So would you agree that probably a big portion of you being so unemotional and mechanical is the very fact that you know in the back of your mind that the amounts of money that you're working with are quite small to begin with?
Yeah, I think that helps. Yeah, and I think, having defined risk in each trade helps as well. That was actually a big hurdle for me.
Well, let me put it this way: if you had a defined risk of $10,000, would you be able to trade unemotionally?
Not with my current account, no.
There you go. That's my point.
So,
Is I think your defined risk, those amounts, you're
Yeah.
keeping it within your personal risk tolerance, which is totally the way you should be doing it. So, I mean,
Right.
my point here is you're doing it the proper way, because you could have the best system ever, but if the system leads to you having too much at risk, even if it is a logical risk, even if that risk makes sense as far as all the other parts of the trade plan, if you're not emotionally comfortable with that risk, I don't care about anything else in the trade plan. You're just going to freak yourself out, and it's not going to go well. So, I mean, at this point, I think we've done a good job of identifying your strengths. You're very methodical. You're taking a patient approach. I love how right now you're just focused on the smaller amounts, and to Chez's point, which you can scale up. So you're just focused right now on building those good habits, which is great. But what are some things that you potentially want to work on?
So let me think about that. I mean, I want to expand what I'm capable of trading. I'm trying to come up with ways to be able to day trade just on downtime during work. I don't know if that's fool's gold or not, but it's at least something I'm looking at.
Red flag.
Okay, and I also really want to learn about.
I do agree.
I also really want to learn about futures as well, just because of the time that you can trade them. So I don't know if that's another red flag or not, but that is something that really interests me, as futures.
I would say that I think, and Chez, if you disagree or want to weigh in, but what you described is literally like a textbook example of how I would say to go about really fine tuning a strategy. And you're clearly fine tuning it because you're still at a smaller amount, and that's great. That's awesome. You're fine tuning. That's what you're supposed to be doing. But before you start and go and look at other things, I would say just keep all your focus on the fine tuning. And I mean, now if you're sitting here saying, yeah, I got $50,000 in my options farm, and that thing is just a well-oiled machine, and I'm looking to maximize my time. And then you said you were going to go and look at all these other things. Hey, that makes sense. But right now, I would say keep the fine tuning. You said you're a software engineer.
Yes.
So you got the software, it's working, it's functioning, but it's not quite ready to go to mass market quite yet. So I would say keep working on it, because, Chez, would you agree he's literally doing like everything properly?
Yeah, and the real red flag for me wasn't that he wants to learn to day trade. It's that he wants to be able to learn to day trade while he's at work. And generally, the time you might have at work is going to be the suboptimal time to trade. I have no problem, because I also work on my own day trading, but my primary source of income is those longer term swing trades. So while I hone that, I practice on other things. I don't throw good money after something I'm practicing. My only concern was that you said you want to be able to do it at work, and I just feel like the hours might not be ideal for your trading. And I have nothing wrong with you wanting to learn futures either, but that was just my thoughts.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Lunch hours, I guess, isn't that good as far as
and
movement.
Plus then you always have the risk of, I only have X amount of time. How long's your lunch? Like 30 minutes?
I mean, I have flexible hours, so
let's call it an hour.
I need it to be. Yeah.
I only have an hour. So because I only have an hour, it's time to day trade. And you pull out both 6 shooters, and you're just the forcing
locked
voices.
And loaded.
Yeah, the forcing voices, you will meet them in a hurry. And to Chez's point, which I wasn't even thinking of, but also, I mean, that's going to eat into the time that you should be using to really nail down what sounds to be a great strategy. So, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even, like I said, you're a smart guy. I mean, I wouldn't even worry about day trading. I wouldn't even worry about futures or anything like that. And that includes really even learning about it or trying to do it. I would just say become a fine-tuned, well-oiled machine first. Get that software to the mass market state of things, and then you can start to go out there and maximize your time in other ways. But It sounds like you're there. I don't go chase some sort of shiny object that's going to pull you off the path, because you're on the right path. I mean, I get it. The path can sometimes be a little slow and annoying, but that's good. That tells you you're doing it right, because things that don't quite feel right, usually that's the market's way of telling you, yeah, but you're doing it right, because it is kind of slow and annoying and maybe a little boring. That's good. The stock market is not a theme park. Okay. You always got to keep that in mind. We're not here for the adrenaline rush, but, Ches, you still have your time machine, right, Ches?
I certainly do.
And are you willing to lend it to John?
I sure am. I mean, I feel like you engineers could probably build your own, but yes, I'm willing to lend it to John. And if
it may come back with a whole new software system, though, so just be forewarned.
Just make sure the UI isn't complete trash. And if you could give me a mobile app, that'd be great too. But aside from that, John, if I was to lend you my time machine, you could give yourself one piece of advice. What would that advice be?
One piece of advice. Maybe don't gamble.
Hey,
I think that would
pretty simple.
I think that would have saved me a lot of trouble.
And honestly, it would have saved 3 or 4 years of your time too.
Yep.
I mean, but you know what? It is what it is. And listeners, I realize it was 2 words, don't gamble, but he efficiently summarized, almost like he's an engineer or something. But yeah, absolutely. All right, John, are you ready for the serious?
I will say though, like that is what led me to you though, so hey, it worked out in the end. So I can't complain too much.
Listen, I just want to give your grandma another shout out, because she's the one that, she's the one that pushed over that domino for you. So right. Shout out to John's grandma. But that's true. It led you to me, but maybe I'll just throw this out there. Maybe there could have been a more efficient path to me that would have still come across, but I guess we'll never know. Yeah. Now, for the serious stuff here, what is your favorite movie?
I'm going to go with Return of the Jedi.
Classic.
Thoughts on that, Clay? I was going to say,
that's
just a classic.
Yeah, I actually, I got
It's before 1996, so you've probably seen it.
But you can't stage this stuff. Literally, I got a new robe from Amazon last night, and it's black and it's got a hoodie, and you put it on, and I look like a Sith Lord, and so I'm chasing my kids around the house last night. Embrace the dark side, and all this sort of stuff, and they thought it was hilarious. Well, a couple of them were getting a little scared, but yeah, I was like a Sith Lord last night, so that's funny.
Dad, you're scaring me.
A couple of them were. Trip thought it was hilarious, but I on that note, I was. What's his name? General Palpatine or whatever. I don't know how much of a geek you are in that regard.
Emperor.
I was. Emperor.
Get it right, Clay.
Yeah, sorry. Well, how's my impression? Embrace the dark side. That sounds like Yoda kind. Listen, we all know that I'm
practice to do.
We all know that I'm a genius. What was it, a couple episodes ago when I'm doing my Scottish accent or whatever? But I'm really good at imitation.
You're the songbird of our generation.
I am. I don't even. Oh yeah, Ches, you're up for the next question. But Return of the Jedi approved.
Absolutely. You, Clay. Favorite food and dessert? What do you think?
I love me some. What is it? The barbecue chicken, bacon from Papa John's. That's my current favorite right now. Oh, what was it? Favorite food and what?
Dessert.
And dessert. Dessert, cookies and cream ice cream.
Now you said right now. So I mean, how what's the cycle on this? How often do these favorite foods change?
Pretty often. It might be seasonal.
What was the previous one?
Previous is just a good old classic American cheeseburger.
So are you like me, where you have a favorite and then law of diminishing returns, you just hammer that favorite so hard that eventually you work it out of the favorite top spot?
Yeah, that can happen. I think right now it's more of so my wife hates Papa John's, so I never get to have it. So it's more of the craving of it.
God, it's a scarcity. You don't have it as much. There is no law of, that's everything can be explained in economics, by the way. It's a fascinating, all right, I'm going to change it up. What's your go-to play as the offensive coordinator for your freshman football team? I hope none of your competition is listening, but are you willing to take that risk?
I am. It's pretty simple.
Okay.
Inside zone.
Inside zone.
Yep.
Inside zone read?
Yeah, the read is built in. We don't have to call it.
Oh, Listen, John, I'm not an offensive coordinator. I'm sorry that I didn't know that it was built in. I just so how many wide receiver sets do you usually, or how many? I don't even know the lingo, but how many wide receivers are usually on the field?
We usually had 4 this year.
Okay, so your quarterback's got a decent arm then?
Well, we like to spread it out we do a lot of fun stuff out of wide formations. So yeah.
Because I was thinking when I played in freshman year, first off, I started playing 7th and 8th grade. The quarterbacks just don't throw. I mean, you can, but everything is like rainbows. Freshman year, I remember the arm strength starts to improve. But it's like the varsity level where you can actually start to chuck the ball around. So I was thinking, wow, 4 wide receivers, but
at the varsity level, we actually set a state record this year for 21 out of 21 completed passes in a game.
Really?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any D1 recruits that were on the team or in the past? Or
yes. Yep.
What can you say? What schools they've gone to?
So I don't want to, but yeah, we've got one right now who's gonna graduate this coming year. I mean, he's got offers to everywhere.
Okay, so he's like 4 or 5-star recruit.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. And you were you his personal mentor?
No, he's an offensive lineman.
We
have a guy from our school that plays in the NFL right now.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't say what school. So anyways, I'll just be intrigued. Yeah. Anyways, we got to wrap this thing up or else we go another 2 hours just talking about Ches, we have it now. We can say we've talked to an offensive coordinator. We have Dan, the college basketball coach. Now we have John, the offensive coordinator. I mean,
I was going to say we've got basketball checked off, we've got football checked off, so now we need soccer and tennis and baseball. So let's listeners out there, step up to the plate. We need to interview you.
Yeah, I'm sure one of the Canadians we've interviewed probably does like curling.
Rugby.
He was probably a curling coach.
Oh, yeah, curling. There you go.
Wrong
country.
That's okay. That was good. All right. Well, we got to wrap things up. 3 words. And you should be really good at this one, John, since your time machine advice was 2 words. But 3 words that you would associate with a successful trader or what it takes to be successful. What would those 3 words be?
All right. Confidence, tenacity, underdog.
Listen to that. You can tell. He's giving us a high school speech right now in the locker room. He's trying to fire us up right now, Ches.
You
can tell he's
already.
The coach.
He won.
I'm ready to go. John, get here right now. Let's do some tackling drills, all right? Man, did you play?
We going full pads? School? I played in high school, not in college.
Full pads. Heck yeah. You played in college too?
I did not play in college. No, I went to Michigan, so I wasn't good enough to play there. You got to be really good. Wait a minute. You got to be really good to play at Michigan, Clay.
You're a Wolverine?
That's right.
Oh, you have to be really good. Yeah, you have to be. Your flag football team has been doing pretty well. So are you pretty?
We're a basketball school now, Clay. You should know.
Oh my, yeah, exactly. That's the whole problem now. As you talk to Michigan, they always divert to we're a basketball. Yeah, fair enough. So are you pretty hardcore though into football?
I am. Yeah, even though I live in St. Louis, I'm a season ticket holder.
I can't believe you. That's awesome. All right. Well, for listeners' context sake, I'm a graduate of The Ohio State University. And if you're not familiar, there is a rivalry between Michigan and Ohio State. So,
it's been a little one-sided lately, fun. But I think that's about to change.
I don't know what happened this last year, but I thought we were going to get just annihilated because your defense I thought was good, but then I don't know what happened to it against us in Florida, but I don't know. So what are your thoughts on Ches? I'm sorry. What are your thoughts on Harbaugh? Or do you want him to go, or are you still on board the Harbaugh train?
Love him. Very glad that you brought in a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, we just stole all sort of your coaches too.
Yeah, and then we replaced them with upgrades.
We're like the Vikings. We just showed up and pillaged and plundered your coaching staff.
Yeah, congratulations. You got our 70-year-old defensive line coach. Congratulations. We replaced him with a 32-year-old up-and-comer.
Who's a great recruit. Up-and-comer in the flag football circuit. Yeah, exactly. All right, we could go and on and on and on. Ches, do you want to weigh in here and in the trash talk, or are you good?
Tackle toss. Go tackle toss.
Yeah. Ches thinks Canadians play rugby, but that's another story. All right, John, we'll definitely have to have you back. And getting back on the serious note, you're killing it, man. You're going about it. I honestly can't see any sort of errors other than what we kind of talked about and gave our opinions on. But even to Chez's point, if you want to learn that other stuff, I mean, you know your own personal capital in the sense of your time and how much, mental energy you can absorb. So that's definitely your call. But I'm glad you got a couple different opinions, from us on that.
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, and keep it up. And I like having you in the room. I did, but now it's on, man. I didn't know you were a Michigan grad, so let the trash talk reign in the chat room as far as I'm concerned. But good stuff. Thank you for hanging out. And do you anything more? Did we cover everything you wanted to? You feel good?
No, I mean, for listeners out there, join the Inner Circle in CTU. You will not regret it. That's all I got to say.
And also, on that note, for current members, how was it? I mean, was this podcast something to freak out about, or did you have a relatively good time? Because we're always looking for new members. I mean, would you say it's not that bad to come on and hang out with Chez and I?
Yeah, it was good.
I'm not going to say we're both normal, but I mean, are we relatively normal? You didn't feel uncomfortable at any point during any of this?
I mean, this is the only time right now that I've been uncomfortable.
Well, there we go. See, so I had it all the way until I had to bring it up. So come be a guest. Well played on your way to stick it to me there. But all right, John. Well, thank you very much for hanging out.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Take care.
Now, for you listeners out there, before we all go, final few things. If you are listening on YouTube, be sure to check out the rest of the channel. Lots of other good stuff. In fact, that's where you can find the video I referred to earlier, where I follow Chez around and kind of look at the daily life, the daily routine of a swing trader, where he talks about his options. So you can see more of a real life look into that. So check out the channel as a whole, and hopefully you decide to subscribe. If you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, then click that subscribe button. And especially on iTunes, if you could leave us a rating, leave us a positive comment, that would really go a long way, and we appreciate it. And then finally, if you're listening at the site itself, claytrader.com, on the show notes page, click that share button, leave us a comment down below. We will read it. We will reply to it. We really do try to pride ourselves in being as interactive as possible. So we look forward to hearing from you. But all in all, thanks again, John. Thank you again to our esteemed co-host, Chez. And most off, thank you as listeners. We will see you back next week.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.